and the graft and the scandals. And let's take a look at a much different topic. We have on page 12 of The Nation being told that when the house help sues you. Now, rulings should worry many Kenyan families, as judges said employers will pay through their noses if they do not have formal contracts. Now, this is an area that has been in limbo for a very long time, because housemaids or house managers, as we call them nowadays, are being just hired based on just being brought from the village by somebody. Even the agencies are a new thing, because for the longest time they have just been operating with no contracts. Therefore, their rights are a bit in limbo when it comes to their pay and how they're treated. So what do you feel about this one on page 12? Be warned, breaching households' rights comes at a costly penalty.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. I mean, the difficult times for everybody.
Yeah.
Majority of Kenyans are probably in the income brackets where they're struggling to pay rent, struggling to pay bills, struggling to meet fees issues and other things.
Yeah.
I think the challenge in this, I think the ideal situation is that workers, including domestic workers, are persons who are in the labor industry and ought to be protected.
Yes.
The manner in which the labor laws operate is that you cannot employ somebody for a continuous period of 3 or 6 months without having a contract and without putting them on a certain fixed salary. And the laws say what that minimum salary is. However, that's what the law says.
Right.
And coming from a legal perspective, the law should never make any provisions which you cannot enforce. And so the question is one of enforcement for me, is that in the many households that you have and the many situations in which people literally want these jobs. In your own house, people coming from up country will probably be so desperate to get a job that they probably wouldn't be following up on these contracts. There probably isn't a cogent and well-organized union for domestic workers, at least not one that resonates and that is accessible to most of the people.
And just, sorry to interrupt you, but there's also the question of illiteracy. We're not talking about people who've gone to school and well educated. Well, some have, but many of them are not aware of their rights.
Yes, it's about awareness, and it's also about the level of education. A lot of people who probably end up in these jobs are people who probably didn't make it past class 8. So they don't have the papers. 2, they don't have access to maybe even media just to know that there is this discussion.
You know.
Right now, when you're having this discussion, they're probably doing some chores in their house. They probably would have access to the newspaper and even be able to read. Some may not even be able to read. There's a joke about some domestic worker who would wake up every morning and be very busy with the newspaper facing upside down, and they wouldn't even know that it was upside down. So I mean, it's a joke that but a sad situation. The issue here really is about enforcement, and if and the discussions, it happens in your houses and stuff. A lot of the people, if forced to go the direction of half contracts and minimum wages, will probably say, look, I'm going to get people to come and do work on a need basis as casuals. A lot of people I see today perhaps get people who come there once a week, do the washings and stuff, and then have to leave. If you have school-going children, then you end up in a situation in which you say, drive your children to school, get a casual worker to come once a week, pay them, and then you don't have those contractual obligations. But having said that, domestic workers are Kenyans. Their rights are important. This thing is incremental. It would have to be gained over time. I don't think it's something we can do or in 1 month or 2 years. It would be important also to know how other neighboring countries are doing it, because I don't think it's unique to us. And it's something similar to what it's not about domestic workers. There's another very sensitive topic about, and I have it in my own constituency, people who call themselves sex workers. How do you deal with sex workers? I mean, there's a moral question there, yet they have a right to earn money. When I was campaigning, they asked me, we want you to come and meet us. We want you to hear our voice. Some of what they do out of compulsion. So you cannot cast aspersions on them or decide that you cannot touch or deal with them.
Yes.
These are questions that are pertinent. We must deal with them, same as the one that the ones about domestic workers. But really, in the end, for me, is that these penalties, yes, they're in law, but how are you going to enforce them?
Enforcement is a big deal.
How are you going to enforce them?
That's a big question. We're being told in Employment and Labor Relations Court Judge Onesphus Macau said that before declaring a household redundant, the employer should comply with Section 40 that requires the employer, among others, notify the employees union and the labor officer and of the workers' plight. But of course, how do you follow up on that? That's a very big